I'm now joined by Helen Browning, Chief Exec of the Soil Association. You're here at Groundswell and you've got 4 sessions, I've noticed. So you've got a very busy time ahead. I just wanted to quickly ask you about the one on the baselines. It's about shifting baselines theory. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, I guess, it's always really bemused why we always talk about the amount of wildlife that's been lost since 1970. 1970 seems to be D-Day, and yet I was around in 1970 and we'd already lost a lot of wildlife by then. And I guess we live quite short lives, don't we? And so we have a perspective of what's normal, which is what we've experienced. And yet, to understand what happened in the generation before, or the generation before that, and what the world was like then, and how much nature there was, or the level of abundance, or what the water cycle was like then. So we're shifting our perspective of what's normal, and I guess that's what we mean by shifting baseline. So we think that the countryside should look like this because that's how we've known it, but actually it might have been very different just 100 or 200 years ago. And if we don't start to really get the data for a much longer time frame and think what is an optimum situation rather than what we just got used to.
Yeah.
It's like boiling the frog, isn't it? You don't really notice as the water heats up. The frog doesn't notice until he's dead. And I think we're a bit like that. We get used to the way something is without really having the imagination or the knowledge of what we have already lost or what things were like in the times before ours.
So your talk is about the role that farmers and land managers can play in helping society kind of reconnect with that deeper ecological memory. Is that the kind of gist of it?
I think that's one angle on it.
Yeah.
So how can we tell the stories? Because it's probably going to be about stories rather than data. We might not have data. We might have some from 200 or 300 years ago, or even 50 or 70 years ago. But how do we tap into that memory that people might have had of what the world was like and what it could be like? I'm not saying the past was all perfect, but actually in the natural world it's generally got a lot worse. And I think that's where we're really concentrating this talk. So I think that's part of it. And then also thinking about how do we stop it rolling forward still more. So how do we get enough information that's accurate about what the world looks like now, and so that we can be really confident we are improving rather than continuing on that trajectory down.
It feels like it's a really important piece of work, and I'd be interesting to see how it pans out. And is there anything sort of from that that work that you're doing that you think how might it look in the future?
Well, I guess it's one of the reasons we started Soil Association Exchange, which is getting a holistic data set on what a farm looks like now, what its soils are like, what its water's like, what its animal welfare is like, and the social impacts too, so that we can start to understand what's working well, what techniques are actually genuinely regenerating these things, and what the trade-offs and tensions are between that. So Soil Association Exchange is our contribution to that debate. Let's stop shifting the baseline. Let's make sure we have a good baseline and that we build from here on in. And let's make sure, and I guess this is where the shifting baselines thing comes in, that our aspiration is high enough and that we really do our best to think about what would have been the state of nature before mankind intervened too much.
Great. I think that we need to stop there because I think we're running out of time, but I could speak. There's so many more questions that I have. There is just one last one, as we are in the Soil Association tent and as the Chief Exec of the Soil Association. So you will know that it's the Soil Association's birthday, 80th birthday, and you have been a significant part of that journey with the Soil Association. How would you like things to look over the next 80 years?
Well, I hope we can continue to make progress as rapidly as we're making it at the moment. It feels like a real time of change where actually not just, I mean, sadly there's not enough growth, I suppose, in the organic side of things. I think we've been so behind the pace here, so I really hope that that would become far more the norm for our farms. But what we have seen over the last little while is a real recognition that farming as a whole has to change in a more regenerative direction, even if that people don't always think of that as being completely organic, and a recognition that our food system is costing the NHS a fortune. And right at the very beginning, Lady talked about food being at the front line of the NHS, and so I think those ideas are now kind of in common currency. The job for the next 80 years is to make them reality on the ground.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.